Anthropic just released something that makes every other AI automation tool look like a toy. And it's called Managed Agents. And it basically lets you build AI employees, not just chatbots, actual autonomous workers that run in the cloud 24/7 with no babysitting required. And I'm going to be showing you how to build one over the next couple of minutes with no technical requirement, just follow along. So what exactly is an agent? Well, here's the quick version. Right now when you use Claude, you type something in, it responds back, and boom, the chat is over. Claude basically forgets everything the moment you close that tab. But managed agents are slightly different because you set one up, you give it a job, and it basically runs autonomously from there in the cloud. So if you want to, it can browse the web, write and execute code or process files, as you can see right here in the section over on the right. It can read files, it can use tools, it can basically do everything that you yourself could do as well. But one of the nicest parts is it actually remembers what it's done in previous sessions, and you can think of it like hiring someone. You basically just give them the task description, it goes to think, it starts to work, and you get the results. Yeah, it's as simple as that. All you gotta do is just check in when they're done. And on this little side note, I think these are sometimes a bit more reliable than actual employees, but don't tell my employees that. All right, so let's get to building, shall we? To get started with this, we'll have to go to the Claude console. And if you've never checked it out yet, just let me tell you, this whole thing that we're doing right here is gonna be using the Claude console that goes through API keys instead of using Claude Desktop. Now, there are some ways to combine the two where you, for example, do all your coding still in Claude Desktop and just mostly work with the API key that we can get from this, or you can now build your agent from within this Claude console dashboard. So what we're gonna do to get started is just press this button, get started with agents. You can see it right smack here in the middle. Give that button a little press, as you can see right here, and here come a ton of different options. We can start from blank, just meaning we insert all the data ourselves with what exactly we want this agent to do. We can also use a template, like for example, hey, we want to get a deep researcher. If you click it, which we're going to give it a go right here, you can see it already built out for us that we're going to use Sonnet for this. It's going to be a research agent, and then it says right here, given a question or topic, decompose it into 3 or 5 concrete sub-questions that, answered together, cover the topic. For each sub-question, run target web searches and fetch the most authoritative sources, prefer primary sources of official docs, peer-reviewed work over blog posts and aggregators, read the sources in full, don't skim, extract specific claims, data points, and direct quotes with attribution, and you get it, right? This is now a specific purpose, deep research agent, and all it's going to be doing is doing this deep research that you specified for it. Now, we could also use this box over on the left to build out exactly the specific task you want to give it, but you can actually also just use any of the templates right here. And I think most people that are watching this video will probably start out with making a deep researcher into some sort of topic and then branch out into different agents as they go. So it's very nice, I think, that there's a template for it already, and you can of course build this out as you go as well. So just for the sake of this video, we'll be using this specific template, and all we have to do is just go over to the top right and press use this template. Once we give that a little go, you can see right here your agent is created. Officially now we have agent number 1. It was as simple as that. And now from here on forward, what we want to mostly do is now build out exactly what we want this thing to do. For example, and this is why I said you can also use everything from scratch. Let's just say we're looking at it and realize, hey, you know what? We don't actually want it to use Sonnet. We want it to use Opus. All we have to do is just type in, hey, I want this to use Opus, not Sonnet. Here we go, the model is updated. Maybe we're looking at this right here on the right and you can see, we actually as a step 5 also wanted to reconfirm and double check. All we have to do is go over and type it. For example, now I typed in, I wanted to double check everything as a step 5. It doesn't really make too much sense here. It's just to give you some sort of idea as to how you can change your bot. You can see right now, adding a step 5 verification past the system prompt now, and you can see over on the right, it changed to now also having a step 5 which double checks everything. Now, of course, the more thorough you are in giving it instructions by, going a lot deeper into every single one of these points, the better it will do it. And so the next thing now is we press configure environment. As we press it, we'll give it a little bit of time to load in. And now come a couple of questions you may want to pay attention for. For example, does this agent need unrestricted internet access, or should it be using specific hosts? Well, in this case here, and this of course you have to realize for yourself, I'll give it some unrestricted access, as if it's going to be my researcher, right, it's going to have to go through all different sorts of shady websites in my opinion. I've also created a new environment for it, and now all we have to do is press start session. So what we are basically starting right here is our agent's first run. Right now, I'm gonna start pressing test run here to see what it's gonna do, and we can quickly give it a little second. Agent saved as version 2, all right. We're gonna see here the session is live. Send your research question in the test run panel on the right and start things off. So what it actually asked me here is, what are the most well-supported findings on the long-term cognitive effects of sleep deprivation in adults? Weird question, but we'll go with it just for the sake of comparison, or just for the sake of this video. We'll go with it. And as you can see on the left, it's explaining exactly what it is doing. Well, on the right, you can see that the model now has started and it's doing its thing. So we're just going to give it a little bit of time to run here. Now, personally, this is not something I really necessarily need information on. So I personally would not want to run my AI agent to do this. But as you can see, here's exactly what it's doing, right? If you press the debug function, you can see all the different steps, all the different tool results, etc. Exactly which part it is doing right now. And well, this is just going to keep running if you ask it questions. If you give it more tasks, it'll do more. Now, a little cool part that I think a lot of people don't know is that you can actually press the button on the top right that says View Session. And if you do that, it gives you a little bit of an easier overview, like a separate tab over being in your whole Agents tab like this. I prefer it that way, because most of the time you just want to see what your researcher is doing. You don't necessarily want to type towards it, and this is a nice way to see your session. You can also do it over on the left in sessions right there, where you can see your different agents and what they're doing at that point. Now, there's one more important thing to note. As this bot right now is running, right, this managed agent is running, it's doing its thing. This will, of course, cut into your costs from Anthropic's console here. And so, of course, you will need to have some money on here because, well, it's going to have to be running, and that costs something, right? Because you're hosting everything in the cloud. Now, depending on how exactly you set up your agents, because like I said, you can do it all through cloud and just receive your API key from the console, or you can do everything through the console, where I don't think you need to ever copy and paste any API key, as the console itself will know. I do believe, however, it is quite wise for everybody to take a good look at what the costs are for you to see if it's actually worth it to keep this running forever or not, or to potentially think of some other solution that could potentially be cheaper, like for example, running it locally rather than running it in the cloud. I personally think there's a ton of benefits of having these managed agents versus alternatives. Here's, for example, a good little overview that showcases why a Claude Managed Agent is so much better than just running it in Claude Code or using OpenClaw or using Zapier or NA10, whatever. But it really depends on your personal purpose, what exactly you're doing it for. And I honestly think that as Anthropic rolls out more updates for these managed agents, every single other automation tool will have to be worried, because it's just that good, or at least the potential is just that great. Because when you think about it, it's pretty crazy. You just in plain English write what exactly you want it to do, and there's no flow you need to build. There's no 7 different tools you need to connect, no 7 different apps you need to sign up on and connect them all with each other. It's all just within one platform. And in this case here, it's a platform a lot of us already use every single day anyway. If you've ever used a different automation tool, you'd realize they can get quite complicated, or there's many limits, or there's some sort of hosting issue, hosting difficulty. You need to find something out. You don't know how to do exactly this part. But this is all in one. It's really a game changer in my opinion. All right, and now that I've kept this bot running for a little while, you can see this right now is done. It's given me here an overview of the long-term cognitive effects of sleep deprivation in adults, research synthesis. This whole research right here and the way it did it would have probably taken me, what, an hour, maybe an hour and a half or something like that. It just saved me all this time without me really needing to do anything at all. It gives me a good overview and exactly a way I would want. And again, if I want to specify it to next time do more things, I can. And again, the more you use this, the more it'll also realize exactly what you want it to do, because you'll become more specific in exactly which steps it needs to go through every single time. Now, if you want some other ideas as to a few different agents you could build today, each of these take less than 10 minutes to set up. Take a look at this, right? You can write for yourself a content research agent. You give it a topic, it finds topic articles, YouTube videos, and Reddit threads. It returns a structured brief with the best angles for your own content. Or you wanted to monitor the competition. All these tools could save you either tens of hours a week, or save you hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars for your business, because a competition tracker, let's say you've got an e-commerce store, you want to know exactly what the others are doing and exactly to what detail extent they're doing something. you can let this thing run itself. You don't have to put an employee on it, no virtual assistant, nothing. You can all do it through managed agents. Or you want to get a morning update. Every single morning, you want it to send you an update. Like I said, you can run these things locally as well. This is just in case you want things to run all the time, every single day, 24/7 in a cloud environment, where before you had to use all these different providers. Right now, you can just do everything through a very, very easy, in my opinion, managed account from Anthropic. Now, we have to talk about cost though. And that's again why I've kept reiterating that it's going to potentially save you tons of money in the longer run. Why? Well, because you don't need employees and you can save a ton of hours, which for the cost of running an agent is quite low. I will say again that potentially of you running it on your own device could be cheaper. For example, if we want to do some sort of analysis of the competition, I could potentially run that in my cloud cowork without needing to use this online version, and I wouldn't have to spend the 8 cents or something like that it costs an hour to keep this running, plus of course some other costs. Well, that's again the comparison you're going to have to make for yourself. At the end of the day, this automation is the next step for a lot of people. To get everything in the cloud running 24/7 is a limit that a lot of people have because they can't keep their device running all the time, or they don't want to run everything on just one device. They want stability and they want an easier overview of everything just in a managed fashion. Hey, it depends on you. I personally think what you're saving just from the fact alone that you can replace one employee with this will most likely just take back all the costs. But again, it depends on your own personal use case for it. Because remember, you're basically running this on API credits, right? So the longer you run it, the more agents you run, the more tokens it processes, the higher the cost will be. But realistically, the cost for an agent is not really that much. For just some simple tasks, it's going to cost you like a few cents if it's running for just a few minutes, for example, right? But if it's going to run for multiple hours, some very complex tasks, it could cost you a few dollars for one task for a few hours, for example. But again, comparing that to the cost of an actual employee, it's neglectable in my opinion. But that's about it. And at this point, you now know more than 99% of people about these Claude Managed Agents. And I really think you've learned a lot today about just managing agents, running these things autonomously basically. And I'll leave some links to some of the most important websites down below so you can check them out for yourself. I'll leave a link to this doc as well if I don't forget. If I do let me know. And if this is useful to you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing a lot more guides about AI, about all these tools and how to use them more efficiently for your business or for you as a personal brand or as a person. And I will see you next time.